Hong Kong for the last generation.
On BakerMarshall.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations
and
with
I realized that this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Backfire with Franklin Chansey and John Stanberry, and of course myself, Steve Doball Hickson.
Let's not forget Daniel Brantley.
And our chief engineer, Daniel Brantley. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Let's see if nope, our turn. Yeah, it's working. Yeah. It's working. I just want to make sure that thing's starting to give me a fit. I'm going to have to get a new bell in here, I believe.
It's wear and tear.
Wear and tear.
You've had to use it a lot.
Well, urgencies needed to improve the worst schools. That's the Chattanooga Times Free Press headlines this morning. What would we do to fix the worst schools?
All the studies that I have seen have found that the very best teachers are frequently not put in the places that have the greatest need. And so probably that would be one thing that we would look at.
How about charter schools?
On an experimental basis, they're fine. In some places they've worked, in some places they haven't. Why would you say on an
experimental basis? They've already proven to work. Yeah, they're proven all over the country to work. And guess what?
They have about 50% failure.
Yeah, and guess what happens to the 50% that fail? They go out of business. And we go, that didn't work. That's the beauty of it, Franklin.
Yes, and that's all money down the toilet.
No, it's not money down the toilet, because they still do as good as the public schools do.
What they also
or
find
better
is that the very best teachers get great results, no matter what kind of school.
Absolutely, but the very best teachers have to be empowered to be able to teach. And the problem we've got right now is a culture that, quite frankly, Franklin's progressive bunch have created over the last 40 or 50 years, where the kids come in and they actually tell the teacher, here's what I'm going to do. And I know what you can and can't do to me. And if you do anything I don't like, my mom's going to sue you.
It's real interesting that John takes that kind of position, and it's also interesting in the paper that although that was the article that was on the front page of the paper, buried back in the paper were the statements that the governor gave yesterday, where he said the truth is Tennessee has historically underfunded our schools.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw that too, Franklin. And here's the first thing you need to understand. I don't blindly support the Republican Party like you do the Democrat Socialist Party. And secondly,
I understand
we are spending historic highs on education. It is illegal in the state of Tennessee to actually cut an education budget.
And we're still in the bottom. And we're still in the bottom five in the country.
Any kind of guy with any kind of scientific mind would understand, if you do something and it fails, the problem is what you did. So in your case, Franklin, that is absolute proof that more money is not the answer. It's where the money's spent.
That's a big chunk of why you're failing.
Well, Franklin, that's not. That's
you were unable to consider as even a possibility.
You don't understand. You've spent more and more money and you've been failing. So more and more money's not the answer. Here's a good one for you, Franklin. Let's quit building big, giant Taj Mahal schools, and let's pay a good teacher a little bit more. Let's move money from bricks and mortar into the classroom.
Okay.
That's an argument we can have, but we don't have that argument, because anytime the school board or anyone else puts up a big fancy building and you say, hey, that's too much, they go, you hate children. Don't you want the best for our children?
Well, John,
I want the best teacher.
Well, John, whether you hate children or not is a different story completely. It has nothing to do with this question.
Look, we have all-time highs. We spend more than any other country in the world, and we get the worst results. Washington, D.C., highest per capita, per student spending in the country, worst results. More money's not the answer.
Well, urgencies needed to improve the worst schools. What do we do? This is Chattanooga. This is not Washington. Mm-hmm. What do we do?
Well, most of your charter schools, because you're voluntarily going to it, they can actually have some discipline in the classroom. And that makes a huge difference in a teacher's ability to teach. And they also don't have to, unless they take federal money, they don't have to allow the boy who wants to peek at the girls and claims he's a girl to get in the locker room. They don't have to let that happen.
Hamilton County's 5 schools talking about is Brainerd High, Dalewood Middle, Orchard, Knob Elementary, Orchard, Knob Middle, and Woodmore Elementary. They've received $13 million in school improvement grants since 2013.
And what kind of improvement did they get?
They're not seeing any improvements.
Gee, Franklin, can you deduce anything from that?
Yes, I deduced from the story they ran a few months ago, which had a significant and detailed look at the role of the teachers in the classroom and which teachers were successful and which ones weren't, and how the teachers who were not successful were concentrated in the failing schools.
And Franklin,
Were
but
they
the point is,
unionized?
what did the $13 million get them?
Not particularly.
What did the $13 million get them? Most of those schools are Title I schools anyway, which means they get even more money.
What they should do is provide some financial incentives for those best teachers.
Well,
to
they
be
can't
willing
do
to
that
go
because they
into
got
those
too many
schools.
administrators eating that money up. They got too many fancy tile floors to install and solar panels to
You're
put
gonna
on the
get in
roof.
trouble, John.
Well, look, go to New York City and look at the Catholic school system in New York City. They take some of the poorest kids in the city. They spend significantly less than the New York City public schools do, and they produce a superior
I think
result.
New Orleans was a good,
The whole state of Louisiana.
yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be learned by the storm that went through Louisiana, and they ended up having to use charter schools.
And they
I mean,
went
they
from the
worked.
bottom of the list of achievement in the country to close to the middle and on top.
Well, I think that should be something that we should look at.
Huge
and try to
increases
go-
in their
You should
scores.
also look, if you're being fair and impartial about that, is how dramatically the school population being educated fell.
You know, it's always an excuse
Let's
with
say
you
that-
progressives. It's never just a fact.
I want to understand what he just said.
They
Say
moved to
that-
Texas.
Tons and tons of people left the area completely.
Who left,
the number, the
The
number
poorest of the poor?
So the smartest ones were
Sometimes.
left.
No, the poorest of the poor were
no,
left.
well, no. What I'm saying is those same amounts of money that they're talking about were now being used to educate far fewer children.
So, in other words, he's not going to admit that the charter schools had anything to do with it, because the teachers union, the NEA, would have a fit if a progressive
No,
admitted
I'm
that.
not saying that, John. What I'm saying is that you can't have it both ways. You say, "Oh, it's
Well, then
this
show me a
miracle,"
fact.
but
Show
then,
me how
but
many
then,
left.
but then they're
Show
doing.
me how many left. Show me what the median income is of the ones that left. Okay. Because I'm thinking the poorest of the poor stayed, Franklin, because they couldn't get out. Of course, if the Democrat governor hadn't let 1,000 buses flood in a parking lot, more of them probably could have gotten out.
All right, let's talk about something else this morning. What about the gas line pipeline is to restart today? You know, this is amazing to me. We had this big gas shortage thing, and I didn't even know anything about it. And
Well, there are a lot of the pumps were closed.
Most people don't actually realize that the vast majority of gas in this area is actually pumped here through a pipeline from Gulf.
why did the price
No,
go
no,
up?
no. This pipeline's going to New York City, from New York City.
Hey, why did the price
It goes
go up?
to New York City.
I think
It,
it's
it
coming
comes
from-
through. It's Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky that's affected by this spill.
Why did gas go up just because this pipe broke?
Because the government shut the pipe down. They were leaking, and they probably could have turned it off and continued to pump, but the government shut it completely down and said, "Oh, now you have to do all these studies before we'll let you turn it back on."
It had leaked over 300,000 gallons.
Franklin, the way a pipe works, wherever the leak is, you turn it off at the spigot above the leak, and from there up, it's still good.
John,
You can pressure check it.
where is the gas coming from on the other side of the leak?
Okay.
You can't just.
On the other side of the leak. I'm going to tell my plumber that. The leak is on the other side of the leak.
Yeah, could you just
The
pump
ga-
on? Could
the
you just
water's
pump on
coming
this
from
side of
other
the leak?
Franklin, there are all kinds of bypasses on these things. There's safety checks on these things. But
Yes,
the
they had to
government shut the
construct
whole
a
thing down.
bypass in order to get it
The
back up
government
again.
shut
That's
the
what
whole
they-
thing down and demanded a bunch of tests.
Well, all I know is I went to the gas station a couple of days ago, and I had to circle the pumps about 3 times. I was trying to figure out what in the world was
Well,
wrong.
that's panic, though.
Yeah,
I bet there wasn't anybody in that line that was empty.
only me. Yeah, I was empty. I go from empty to full. But anyway, I didn't even know that we had all these gas problems. And all of a sudden, the price started going up. My wife always keeps me tuned in on price of the gas, so she's the warrior of the pennies.
Pennies.
She would drive 10 miles to save 2 cents a gallon. I know she's probably listening. She's going to shoot me. How do you mistakenly grant 800 and something immigrants U.S. citizenship? How does that happen?
In some cases, fraud.
Well, Franklin, is that the same people that will be vetting all of these 100,000 plus Syrian refugees? Same group?
In case the audience doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, folks, it is.
I'm
In
sure
case the
that's true,
audience
John.
doesn't know what I'm talking about, the Homeland Security Inspector General found that
858.
858 immigrants were granted citizenship by accident.
Now, wait a minute, it's worse than that.
Okay.
These were people who were actually flagged to be deported.
Right. They weren't going to be granted, but now they're granted.
Do you know how that happened?
No, I don't.
Well, they didn't have any fingerprints on file. So once again, Obama, Clinton, who say they're going to vet all of these people, they had no fingerprints for them. So these people, when they were told they were going to be deported, they simply changed their name, applied for citizenship under another name, and amazingly, with no fingerprints, no documentation, they were granted citizenship.
No comment.
But keep in
what
mind,
is it that
we
they've
trust
done?
these same people to vet 100,000 Syrian refugees.
No. Have these people committed a bunch of crimes? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
don't know.
they were.
Is that what you're
they
saying?
were immigrant. We now have fingerprints missing in that same database for as many as 315,000 with final deportation owners who are fugitive criminals. So 315,000 fugitive criminals on the deportation list. We have no fingerprints for.
And these are all Middle Eastern refugees. Is that
Well,
what
we
you're
don't
telling
know.
me?
We have no fingerprints on them, Franklin. We have no idea who they are. The point is, this is the same
How dumb
bunch
is
of
dumb,
the
Franklin?
same people that you're trusting to vet Syrian refugees.
Since 9/11, there have been roughly 735,000 refugees admitted to the United States of America.
Are you bragging?
Yeah,
You are bragging.
since 9/11. I didn't say all from that. Thus far, none of them have committed any acts of terrorism.
Actually, that's not true. This weekend, one of them did.
He wasn't admitted
This very
into that
weekend. By the
program.
way, this weekend, while it was happening, President Obama was making jokes about ISIS not being really credible. So he's joking at a political fundraiser. And at the moment he's joking, bombs are going off in the streets of New York. And by the way, in case you want to give him a little cover, you say, oh, it was happening at the same time. Earlier in the day, the bomb had gone off at the Marine charity race. So our president thinks it's appropriate to make jokes about ISIS while ISIS is blowing people up in our own streets.
Yep, that's right. John.
Well, he did. Tell me he didn't.
John, some days you are about as small in your thinking
Tell
as
me
it's
he didn't.
possible to
Tell
get.
me he didn't joke about it, Franklin.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
know. I didn't hear the comments. I wasn't at a fundraiser with him. Were you?
Well, no, but I'll read it to you. You want me to read it? You read the quote to you? I'll
Let's
read
hear
it to
it.
you right
Let's
now.
hear it.
I don't know about you guys, but I am so relieved that the whole birther thing is over. I mean, ISIL, North Korea, poverty, climate change, none of those things weighed on my mind like the validity of my birth certificate.
Oh, so he wasn't making fun of ISIL.
It's a
he was
joke,
making fun
Franklin.
of Donald Trump.
ISIS had stabbed people in a mall, blown up a Marine race, and
I
while
rest
he
my
was actually
case. I
speaking,
rest my case. That's exactly what
You know
happens
what,
every
Franklin?
time.
Let me
John
put it
comes
to you
in
this
here
way.
and
No
misrepresents the
president should
facts.
joke about
and
terrorists
tries to
killing
say-
Americans.
Tries to
Wait a
say
minute.
that something
Wait a
was
minute.
said that
How,
wasn't.
how did he misrepresent the facts?
There
He
you
was
go.
making
There's
fun
the
of
quote.
Donald
Read
Trump.
it. Read it yourself.
That charity
right there.
thief y'all
Read
are
it yourself.
y'all are backing.
Black Caucus.
What chair?
National Black Congressional Caucus.
Let me
Franklin,
read-
making
What a
jokes
joke,
about
John.
ISIS.
That's an
You
embarrassment for
wanna
you
read
even
the
to make
quote
that
yourself?
argument. I
Wait,
just
do you
did.
wanna
I'll
read
let
it?
you. I do trust you
Did
to
he
read,
say it
John.
or not?
I just don't trust you
Did
to
he
tell the
say
truth
it or
about
not?
it.
Did
Yes, he
say
said it.
Was it appropriate?
Yes, it was
A
appropriate to
joke
make
about ISIS was appropriate.
It wasn't a joke
Well,
about
folks,
ISIS, and you
By
know
all
it.
means, vote for Franklin's candidate because he thinks joking
That's
about
right.
crisis while American
go vote for
citizens
the man
are
who
picking
stole from
shrapnel
charities.
out of his shoulder. American citizens picking shrapnel out of their shoulder, and we've
What
got
a
the White
joke.
House going, it's a narrative war.
Your entire party's a joke, John.
You mean like calling it a narrative war while bombs are going off on public
Yes,
streets in
John,
America?
That's what I'm saying.
So, folks, I tell you what, the next time you walk by a pressure cooker bomb and it goes off, take comfort in the fact that it's only a narrative war.
That's right, because people walk by pressure bombs all the time, don't they?
Were the pressure bombs loaded with words that hit people? Oh, no, that's right. They're loaded with shrapnel.
Well, I'm going to read this one more time. Then I've got something I want to play. I want you to put your headsets on. I don't know about you guys, but I am so relieved that the whole birthday thing is over, Obama said. I mean, ISIL, not ISIS, ISIL, North Korea, poverty, climate change, none of these things weighed on my mind like the fidelity of my birth certificate. Now then, I want you to hear something.
I will consider it a personal insult, an insult to my legacy, if this community lets down its guard and fails to activate itself in this election. You want to give me a good send-off? Go vote!
All right. Now then, we're going to keep his legacy. We want to keep his legacy alive.
Well, I hope we don't, because I don't want more pressure cookers going off on city streets in America. That's the legacy.
The Chelsea blast, they call that, is that just
Chelsea.
Chelsea, is that a suburb of New York?
It's a neighborhood in Manhattan.
It's not named after Hillary's daughter?
Nope.
Okay. When that first happened, I thought it was where
The
she
Rolling
lived.
Stones used to live there.
I thought it might be where she lived when they first said it.
I thought maybe she'd bought it with her $14 million net worth after doing absolutely nothing in life.
Now, Franklin, I want to say, I did just read that. So you can't, I mean, I think Obama did say that, did he not?
Yeah, it was a joke about Trump, not about ISIL.
But I'm sorry, don't joke about ISIL. That's a pretty simple rule. Don't joke about terrorists who are killing Americans all around the world. Don't joke about it. It's not funny.
Okay.
By the way, Franklin, do you believe that we're in a narrative war with ISIL?
In terms of the recruitment, yes.
That's not in terms.
Yes,
the White House
John.
spokesman was asked about the bombings, and he said we're in a narrative war.
Let's talk about Miss Hillary, what she had to say. She called Mr. Trump a recruiting sergeant for the terrorists. And from the Rainey Airport in White Plains offered herself as a seasoned warrior against terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
How is she a seasoned warrior?
Because she's helped create all of this. Her policies in Syria are what created ISIL. So she's an expert
There
on
is
ISIL.
no question that her policies have been much more hawkish than the president's have been.
What do you mean,
And
hawkish?
much more aggressive.
Her?
That's what she's trying to do now. She's worried that the public is shifting to Trump because they're scared. So now she's trying to be tougher.
That's been the case for 15 years. There's no doubt about that.
Well, frankly,
What's funny about it is that y'all actually don't appreciate that when it's exactly the thing you've argued for over the years.
I can't see anything different. I can't see
the Secretary
anything
of
she's
State
done.
doesn't get to make all the
I can't
decisions.
see anything she's done.
Well, let me ask you an
I
opinion
can't
about
find
a
anything
decision,
she's
Franklin.
done. What has she done, Franklin? Tell me something she's done.
Who does she think's more deplorable, jihadis or Trump supporters? Because 50% of Trump supporters are deplorable. What percentage of jihadis does she think are deplorable? She's pretty quick to chastise American citizens. I haven't heard her say what percentage of Muslims are deplorable.
Okay, John.
Well, has she?
Yeah, well, it's just like your candidates can't figure out that David Duke is deplorable. Just say
Actually,
it.
they've repudiated
Just
his
say
support.
it.
By the
Be
way,
done
Franklin,
with it.
how do you feel about CNN actually editing her comments to make her seem more acceptable?
I don't know, John.
Well, she called
part
the
of
first
the
thing she
vast
said.
conspiracy
It is.
against
Franklin.
Donald Trump.
Let me read them to you.
Who's got more free media than anybody?
Because
in
he's
history.
smarter than they are, not because they wanted to do it. They were furious at the last weekend's
Well,
press
they
conference.
should have been.
Because they got played.
Yeah, they did get
Well, you know
played.
what? I want a president smart enough to play people. That's a smart
You want a
president.
president smart enough to lie daily?
No,
that
that's
what
why
you-
I'm not voting for Clinton. Because
That's
she
right.
lies daily by her own
Oh,
admission.
really? You,
Yes,
you
she
don't,
does.
you don't think
Hillary-
that applies to Donald Trump?
No.
No.
Really?
What have you caught Donald lying in?
PolitiFact says that
PolitiFact.
53% of his statements have been totally false.
Really?
53%.
Well, Franklin, let me run something by you then. I've got an interesting one for you. They have a new survey out. NBC News poll found that just 11% of Americans say that Clinton is honest and trustworthy, okay? But you know what? 14% believe in Bigfoot. 21% believe that a UFO crashed in Roswell. 15% say the government adds secret mind control technology.
What were the numbers on Trump?
It was above that. Good bit.
What was it?
I don't know.
Really?
I
Was
don't
it
know,
really,
Franklin.
John?
I don't know.
Are
Let
you
me
sure?
read this more to you. 13%.
Are you sure, John?
13 more people think that Barack Obama is the Antichrist than believe Hillary is honest and trustworthy. But now there is some good news for her, okay? Because only 4% believe in shape-shifting lizard people. So more people believe she's honest and trustworthy than believe in shape-shifting lizard people controlling our societies.
Frankly, I really don't think
suggest you check Trump's numbers on that, John.
I really don't think you can say that Trump is a liar over Hillary.
Oh, yeah, I can.
How?
Because you can't find a position he hasn't taken both sides of
We can't
in
find
the
a-
last 24
But guess
months.
what, Franklin?
can't find
People
the lie
didn't
that
die
she
because
told.
of his. Those are called. That's called politics, and you're right. I don't really like it either.
Well,
but
he
it's
was-
called politics. In her case, it's called lying and covering up dead people in Benghazi. It's called lying and covering up targeting people through the DNC. By the way, we now apparently have close to the smoking gun in her email thing. We now have. To the day when they were asking for emails, one of her people who's now claiming his Fifth Amendment rights went on Reddit and asked about how he removed people's addresses from emails the very day that they found out they were going to have to turn the emails over. That's pretty much a smoking gun, Franklin. It certainly goes towards intent.
Okay.
He actually said he has a very VIP client that he
John,
needs to strip. Now listen to that.
The breadth
strip,
of time you spend in conspiracy
Franklin,
land is
strip her name
unbelievable.
off of emails.
She didn't do anything wrong.
Now that's
though,
the
did she?
same guy that said, "Hey, I
Your
think."
candidate stole from charities, for
didn't-
God's sake.
Are we talking about the Clinton Foundation?
No, we're talking about the Trump Foundation.
Well, has that been
How'd he
proven?
steal-
Yeah, it
how'd he
has
steal
been
from
proven.
it?
How did you
How'd he
prove it?
steal from it?
Yeah, how did he steal from it?
He used the funds in his so-called charitable foundation to pay to settle lawsuits filed against him
You mean like
Where did the
Clinton
money for
used
his
theirs
foundation
to
come
fly all
from?
over the world?
from other charities who gave it to him.
Did
No.
you know that?
No, not from him.
Franklin?
It turns out he's given practically nothing to
No,
his own
that's
foundation.
since 2008. And by the way, I believe the Gates Foundation does that too. I believe the Clinton is the Clinton Foundation all the
It's
Clinton's
not even
money?
close.
Is
the
the Clinton
degree of
Foundation all
corruption
of Clinton's
involved.
money? And by the way, we now know
This is what happens. Every time you guys start talking, you find out that your own candidate's
Franklin?
worse. So you just keep it up. Please, by all means,
we
keep
now
it up.
know that the Clinton Foundation spent more on travel than they spent on grants for assistance. More money on travel.
Y'all go
Bill
right
Clinton
ahead.
says it's hard to think about even giving up the foundation.
Go right ahead.
Well, they're not going to let Chelsea off the board. She's going to keep drawing a paycheck.
Yes, because it's so much different for Donald Trump, who said, what? I'm just going to let my children run my activities after I'm president. There won't be any conflict there, will they?
Well, you say there was no
Police.
conflict with her running hers.
I didn't
Are
say
you
anything.
saying by
This
on
is your
principle?
issue, John.
I'm asking
You're
you.
the one that thinks
Well, which is it, Franklin?
The survival of the free
Which is
free
it?
world depends on who's running the Clinton Foundation.
Well, the problem here, Franklin, is because we have emails showing where they said, I gave money, now I expect a meeting.
What we
have
have
pay
is
for
Donald
play.
Trump making all
We
these
have
huge
pay for
promises
play.
and then won't release the tax returns
Pay
to
for
prove
play.
it.
I'm just waiting to see if
By
we
the
can
way,
get a moment
Charlie
of silence.
Crist, who's running for Congress in Florida,
Yeah.
was in a debate, and he actually, in the debate, now the debate, you can listen to this, folks.
The Republican,
Yes.
previous Republican Charlie Crist?
The former Republican, former Democrat, former independent Charlie
Well, he
Crist.
should fit in right in with Trump, shouldn't he?
This is something he said. Now, the debate is completely silent. He said, the thing I like most about her, Hillary, is I believe she is steady. I believe she is strong. I believe that she is honest. The crowd literally erupted in roars of laughter when he said that.
Who said that?
Charlie Crist in a debate. The crowd laughed when he said she's honest.
Let me ask you something, Franklin. Why would we be wanting to
By the way,
bring
Charlie
more?
Crist is a Democrat now.
Why would Hillary want to bring more refugees into our country right now?
Because it's what America has always done to people in
Syrian
need.
refugees. Let me rephrase that. I mean, with the problems we've got going on right now, would it not be time just to kind of slow down and let's take a deep breath and try to get fingerprints and get IDs?
By the way, the
maybe
guy
try to
that
work on
bombed
this
in New
thing?
York wasn't on the terrorist watch list, even though his dad called and reported him.
How could he
even though he
miss?
made multiple trips to Afghanistan and Pakistan for months at a time.
How could we
even
miss?
though all of that happened, he wasn't on the terrorist watch list.
How could that happen?
So let me make sure I get this straight out here. We've got a columnist for the Washington Post goes on a cruise that stops in Turkey, and that gets him on the watch list. And according to Franklin's progressives, he shouldn't be allowed to buy a gun ever because he's
Not
on that
on the
list. But a
terrorist
guy
watch
whose
list.
father reports and
He
says
isn't
he's
on
a
the
terrorist
terrorist watch
and
list.
travels multiple times to
He
Afghanistan
isn't
and
on the
Pakistan.
terrorist
He
watch
was.
list. No, he wasn't.
He got
He's
off.
on the no-fly list, which is a different
Well,
list.
y'all want to ban up people from buying guns on that too.
Y'all can't get your
You
facts
want
straight.
to actually? We asked for a 3-day waiting period, and your Democrats blocked that vote. But my point is, the guy who's gone to a terrorist nation for months at a time, whose father called and said, I think he's a terrorist, he wasn't on any list because, God forbid, we be politically incorrect with the Obama administration.
Let's wait till the facts come out, John.
All right, let me give you another fact, Franklin.
No,
Guy
the facts,
goes in,
not
he's
your
a Somali
crazy opinions.
refugee. You want to talk about refugees. He's a Somali refugee. He goes in a mall. He begins stabbing people. He asks someone if they're Muslim. He proclaims allegiance to Allah. ISIS puts out a report and says, yes, he's our guy. Now, they didn't claim the guy in New Jersey's theirs. They claimed this guy. So it's not a blanket ISIS taking credit for everything. And the FBI still says it's too early to tell what the motivation is. Really? You all are that dense?
Frank, I'm going to help you out this morning.
I don't need any help. Y'all are doing it just
Hey,
fine for me here.
Frank, I'm going to help you out this morning. Do you think President Obama was born in the United States? He just grinned at me. He's not saying a word.
Well, you might want to tell Sidney Blumenthal, Hillary's chief political advisor, because that's who shopped the idea to the Washington Post and McClatchy News Service. Her people shopped that.
I mean, Bill Clinton did say it was hard thinking about leaving the foundation. They won't give up that money, will they?
I feel real bad for them. They're worth over $100 million, never built anything, never created anything, but they're worth over $100 million now.
Actually, independents looking at the Clinton Foundation have found enormous good done all throughout Africa
course.
and most of the Caribbean.
Yeah, but let me get, did you read the article I gave you on
Yes,
Haiti?
John, I did.
Did you have any
John.
problems with
What
any
about
of
all the
that?
other countries?
Did you answer the question? Did you have any problems with any of that?
Of course I did.
They're
John.
all immensely connected to Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. They all made money off of it, and the Haitians suffered.
John,
but you're going to defend
I'm
it.
sure you and I could find points of agreement
Show me. There was nothing in that worked.
if you were willing to look at the overall work of the foundation and give credit where credit's due while you're giving criticism where criticism's due. But since you're not, what's the point?
Well, my criticism is
What
where
he's
the
saying,
money
folks,
came
is
from.
I gave him a
Wait
long
minute.
article on
My
Haiti.
criticism of that foundation is where the money came from.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I think it's a questionable practice. I agree.
So, in other words, it was wrong the way the money was.
But I also think it's questionable when people give huge donations to political campaigns. I think that's questionable because it has the same tinge.
Well, do you
to
think the Clintons didn't understand that?
I think that they took advantage of the law that's
Well, here's
allowed.
Bill Clinton just this week. He said, yeah, donors probably influence the State Department. That's her own husband. Yeah, probably so.
I tell you, they're
Okay. That doesn't come as a surprise to anybody.
Well, gee, Franklin, it came as a surprise because that was an issue we discussed before she took the Secretary of State, and they assured us that it wouldn't happen. They assured us that they would insulate it, and they didn't. Are they not to be held accountable for that?
Sure, John.
Then
I
why
don't
would
have
you
a problem
elect
with
your
that.
president
I
in an
just
even
said,
more
what did I
important
just
position?
say, John? Because I don't see a difference in what's being offered on the other side in that regard.
Well, he's never been in public
You're
office.
the guys
We
who
don't know.
think Citizens
She
United was
has, and
great.
she has
I
proved,
think it's horrible.
Franklin, he's never been in public office before. We have no idea what he'll do. She's been in public office her whole life, and
We know
what
exactly
she did.
what she's gonna
She
do.
feathered her nest to the tune of $100+ million wealth.
Basically her whole career, she was an attorney for a short period of time, but basically the whole career has been in politics, right?
Absolutely. Never built anything.
Are we not trying to get rid of career politicians? Is that something that we all agree on, that we need to get rid of career politicians? Why would we want to vote for another one?
No, that's not necessarily my view.
Oh,
I think we need to get rid of people who don't do their jobs.
Okay.
That's who we need to get rid of.
Let's take a break.
Like the Russian reset.
We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
And you're listening to WOOPLP, Cleveland, Tennessee. Whoop FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music. Whoop FM wants to know, what do you really think about us? Call and leave us a message at 614-5553, and we'll play it on the air. Love us? Hate us? Let us know. 614-5553.
Check into cash. The cash you need today is waiting for you at Check into Cash. It's your money, so come in and get it.
Get a payday advance today for up to $425. At Check into Cash, we make it quick, easy, and confidential.
The cash you need is right here, so stop worrying and stop in to Check into Cash today.
Borrowers often use payday advances over a period of months, which can be expensive. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Did you know that U.S. Money Shops cashes all checks, even the ones most check cashers reject? Tax refund checks, government checks, payroll checks, and many more. And when you cash a check with U.S. Money Shops, we'll give you 10% off your next purchase. At U.S. Money Shops, we have everything you need at a fraction of regular retail. So stop by one of our 11 locations or visit us online at usmoneyshops.com.
Buy or sell or buy today, the better way at U.S. Money Shops.
Some restrictions may apply. See store for details.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it. Dig it, dig it.
Dr. Christopher Chase, with Associates in Plastic Surgery, now offers his patients the convenience of a Cleveland office at 2350 North Ocoee Street. Dr. Chase specializes for the ladies in breast augmentation, including lifts, reconstructions, and reductions, also tummy tucks or mommy makeovers, and facial rejuvenation, including facelifts, eyelids, brows, nose, and he also offers Botox procedures. Check out Dr. Christopher Chase. He is certified by the American Board of Surgery, the American Board of Plastic Surgery. He's a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons and the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Check their website out at aprs.md. That's aprs.md. Call for your convenient appointment in Cleveland at 624-0021. 624-0021. 2350 North Ocoee. That's Dr. Christopher Chase.
This is Teresa Gilbert from the Village Bake Shop in Cleveland, Tennessee. Do you have a birthday, wedding, or anniversary coming up and want that perfect cake? Need some donuts to sweeten up your coworkers? Want to surprise your sweet thing with a bag of cookies? Then come on over to the Village Bake Shop. Family operated since 1961, the Village Bake Shop is your first and last stop for fresh baked goods that will feed your sweet tooth. The Village Bake Shop located at the Village Green Town Center. The phone number here is 423-476-5179. See you soon.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best
With over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
every Saturday. That's right, every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239 or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Train engineers put our heating and cooling products for almost every test imaginable. So while you're sending your kids to school, they're sending 10,000 volts through a compressor. Testing like this is the reason Train is so reliable, and why our engineers prefer their steaks. Well done.
Ready to indulge in Train comfort? Call a Train comfort specialist at Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. High quality service and installation for more than 30 years.
It's hard to stop a train. Really hard.
Now back to Backfire.
Are we back live?
Yeah.
All right, something
CNN's
happened.
being criticized.
All right, we're live, folks.
Edited out a portion of Hillary Clinton's statement.
They did edit out. They edited out a portion of Hillary Clinton's statement that hurt her.
Let's talk about that. We're live.
Well, CNN, multiple things they've done. They posted, and I've got a screenshot of it here, and this is Trump's quote. He says, but Israel has done an unbelievable job, and they'll profile. They profile. They see somebody that's suspicious, they will profile. They will take that person in, they'll check. Now, that's the quote. Right. The headline from CNN says, breaking, Trump says racial profiling will stop terror. Nowhere in that statement does he say racial.
They
completely changed the entire meaning of that. Now, that is the same CNN that Hillary came out after the bombing and said, and this is a quote, first sentence she said, I've been briefed about bombings in New York and New Jersey and the attacks in Minnesota. Well, they edited that sentence out of her statement and only ran with the rest of the paragraph and then criticized Trump for saying it was a bombing without all the information.
No, I didn't understand what you just explained.
All right.
Hillary did what?
Trump was asked about what he knew, and he said, I've been told that we just heard there were bombings in New York City. Right. Well, the press had already started saying, Trump called it a bombing before all the facts are in.
Gotcha.
All right, so Hillary gets off the plane. The first words out of her mouth was, I've been briefed about bombings in New York and New Jersey and the attacks in Minnesota. And then she went on to talk about first responders. Well, when CNN aired it, they edited that they cut that first sentence out of the clip and started after she called it a bombing. And I even asked her what she thought about Trump calling it a bombing, and she actually criticized him and said, well, he shouldn't be saying that without all the information in. It's exactly what she said, but CNN covered for her by editing that sentence out.
Well, it's pretty obvious that CNN's pushing Hillary, would you think?
Well, I don't know the answer to that one. I think what they did is wrong.
Who did it benefit?
Hillary.
In the long run, it may not.
I know he won't say it, so I will.
Okay, but I mean, it's like nobody gave Donald Trump more free coverage through the primaries than MSNBC.
But only because he.
I didn't like that.
But only because he manipulated them. What we're talking about is their intent, Franklin. What was CNN's intent with those two edits?
Good question, John.
It was to help Hillary and to hurt Trump, and you know it.
I agree with you about that, although I would ask you when you read his actual statement what you think he was talking about.
I think he was talking about profiling.
Profiling on what? On what basis?
Franklin, if you have a bank robbery and you get a description of the perpetrator, that's profiling. No, you tell your police, we're looking for a white male, 6'4". Yes, it is. No, you don't look, if it's a white male 6'4", you don't look at black females.
John,
you don't look at Asian,
John,
children.
They weren't talking about a specific crime when he was referencing his Israel description.
Franklin, we're talking about Middle Eastern males between the age of 19 and 29 have done all of these attacks. So, yeah, we are talking about a specific crime.
Okay.
So
by the way, the CNN thing,
So
this
it
is
was
the
a
same
particular
network.
ethnic group.
This is the same network that edited a speech by Cheryl Smith, who is the sister of one of the guys shot in Milwaukee, and where they claimed that she was calling for peace. Well, you later found out what she was calling for was rioting in the suburbs rather than the inner city, and they edited that part of her speech out. Same network.
All right, let's talk about the black man that was fatally shot in Tulsa. Police, he was unarmed, and you know, I'm sure that we're going to get some stuff stirred up about this. You know, Hillary made a speech and said something about she was going to have to talk to the white people, and you know, we've got to stop this from happening. And some
That
of these
would be a racial comment on
it
her
was
part,
very
wouldn't it?
racial.
Apparently, it's okay to be racial if you're fussing at the white race, but it's not okay to be racial if you mention any like the Muslims.
There has been a lot. It's very difficult to watch. The police chief, Chuck Jordan, said at the news conference Monday, the first time I watched it with the family. We will do the right thing. We will not cover anything up.
I think that's a good statement.
That's a perfect statement. I just don't understand why we want to try to throw all this racial stuff into it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, was it a white person or a black person that shot the guy?
I think it's a woman.
It's a white woman.
Okay.
But now keep in mind, balance. Look, I agree with the chief. They should do whatever is right and wherever the facts lead them in that case. But think about the woman police officer who got shot 9 times in her patrol car just sitting there. Fortunately, she has survived. But that's part of the problem here is we always want to second guess an armchair quarterback when these police officers put their lives on the line every minute of every day at work.
Somebody pointed out yesterday in the context of a broader discussion about this issue that you have an unarmed black man with a broken down car who shot 5 times and killed, and we have an acknowledged terrorist who's blown up people with bombs, and he's shot just to be wounded, to be brought in for custody.
Here's a little...
Well, hold on a minute.
Okay.
And the context of this was that, and I think this was a fair discussion, there is a vast difference in the kinds of training about threat recognition that police officers get at different levels around the country. And that's probably a legitimate thing to look at in terms of how to avoid things like this by giving them much more extensive training in these issues.
That's a good statement, Franklin. The problem is we rarely get to those kind of statements because, unfortunately, your party inflames this along racial lines.
Because all too often, though, those issues have been treated differently.
Well, let me give you a good example, though,
just a
Franklin.
fact.
You mentioned the shooting of one versus the other. I went dove hunting last weekend. I shot close to a box of shells. I got 3 birds. Sometimes I can shoot a box of shells and I may get 20 birds. You know, when you're in a firefight, sometimes you hit a lot, sometimes you don't. And
well, firefight implies that somebody's shooting at you, doesn't it?
Franklin, look, do you know how long it takes to pull a trigger? And how fast a bullet moves. These officers, see, I will have to say, that is really grating on your part to say something like that. These officers aren't allowed the Matrix type vision of a bullet moving towards them. They make decisions in split seconds. And for you to second guess that and say, well, you know, it really wasn't a firefight. You stick yourself on the line out there with people who are trying to kill you every day.
I wouldn't minimize what police
you
officers
just did.
No, I didn't, John. I just looked at a video
and
saw what I saw.
Guessed what happened
and saw somebody with their hands up in the air get shot.
And as they reached back to the car, now it looks like that was a mistake. But you know what? It was a mistake to reach back in the car.
Let me read from this article here. It says the SUV was running in the middle of the road.
Broken down.
With its doors open. It was running in the middle of the road with its doors open. He said that the officers then encountered Kreutzer, whatever his name is, who the officers claimed did not comply with their demands and appeared to reach into the vehicle. The police spokesman had earlier told reporters that the 2 officers were walking towards the stalled SUV when Kreutzer, the person that was shot, approached them from the side of the road. He refused to follow commands given by the officers, McKenzie said. They continued to talk to him. He continued not to listen and follow any commands. As they got closer to the vehicle, he reached inside the vehicle, and at that time there was a taser deployment. And a short time later, there was one shot fired. But, you know, if the police tell you to halt or to stop,
you stop.
You stop. And, you know,
by the way, there's another case this weekend, very similar, very tragic. And I don't know whether the boy was part of the robbery. There was an armed robbery. There was a report of 3 people involved. The police end up seeing 3 people in the street that fit the description. They ask them to stop. 2 of them take off running. A chase ensues. They get backed up somewhere. One of the boys turns, his 13-year-old boy, pulls a gun out of his waist. The police shoot and kill him. Now, the gun turns out to be a BB gun. Now, it's a BB gun that looks exactly like a Glock that they carry.
Like a real gun.
But here's my question, Franklin. Why would a 13-year-old? 13 years old is old enough to have some judgment. Why would you pull a BB gun out and point it at a police officer?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm almost to the point in that where it looks to me like perhaps he was looking for an incident, maybe without thinking about the fact that he could actually die.
Or maybe he wanted them to know he had it and was going to give it to him. I don't know.
I mean,
well, my point is, are you going to blame those police for not seeing that it's a little teeny BB?
What did I just say, John?
I know, but that's my point,
that is
Franklin.
Different.
You can't. No, it's not different.
It is different when somebody has what appears to be a gun in their hand.
Yes, but you could make the argument that they should have seen the barrel and should have seen that it was a BB gun.
I didn't say that.
Let me interrupt y'all.
Yes.
I want to keep going here. It says I don't know where these statistics come from, but it's talking about Kreutzer. He's the guy that was shot. Is one of at least 680 people. And 100 out of 680 people, 161 of them black who have been shot and killed by police officers this year. Is that in the whole United States?
Yes.
Okay.
And by the way, here's one of the problems. If Franklin and the progressives wanted to have a discussion like he just had, which was actually very reasonable, we need to look at that threat assessment. We need to look at response. That's fine. But they always throw a racial component in. Here's the problem with that statistic. Yeah. The majority of the police officers doing the shooting are actually black.
Well, that's right. But, you know, I'm going back to what Hillary's trying to make a racial comment.
Yes, she's trying to gin up the base so she gets a higher percentage of the turnout.
And it's so
damaging
obvious.
To the fabric of our country.
It's just obvious, and it's damaging our country. That kind of her comments about having to talk to white people and stuff like this about this, you know, and acting like there's something really wrong here, that the white police are just out of control. Are they, Franklin? Are the white police out of control?
In places.
Well, Franklin, how do you deal with the fact that a higher percentage of the shootings of black men by police are done by black police officers? How do you explain that?
Depends on where they occurred, John.
Oh, see, Franklin, why can't you just say, obviously, race is not a part of it?
John,
you were right earlier when you were talking about threat assessment and responses, but
John,
your party always wants to divide Americans along racial lines.
If you are a black male in America, you are much more likely to be pulled over for a small traffic violation. You're much more likely to be arrested. If you're convicted of a crime, you're much more likely to get a higher punishment than if you weren't black.
Look,
don't tell me there's no racial component.
Let me preface this. I don't want to go there because what you all want to do is you want to pick and choose. If you really want to go there, that's fine, Franklin, because 53% of all the murders in America are committed by black men. And yet they only comprise 13%. Actually, if you divide it male and female, they only comprise around 6 or 7% of the population. So by your own type of logical argument, they actually commit a huge percentage of the murders of their own people.
Okay. I
don't think that's a useful discussion. But your party always wants to go down and divide Americans on racial lines.
I think it is a useful discussion.
Then why aren't you talking to the black community
about
says
stopping?
We're not? Well, because
you guys don't
you're
ever
not, Hillary's not, the president's not.
The president's talked about that very fact many times.
The president
John.
has mentioned
Yes,
it in passing
many
a
times.
time or two when he's gotten criticized.
No. That's not accurate.
All right, I'm going to change the tone a little bit. Former President George H.W. Bush is bucking his party's presidential nominee and plans to vote for Hillary Clinton in November, according to a member of another famous political family, the Kennedys.
Yeah. You know what I take away from that?
Yeah.
It shows you how disgusting the Kennedys and the progressives are. Here's a 93-year-old man
92.
says something in private to a Kennedy, and instead of thinking about all the ramifications that this could have for the family, she can only think about her partisan political ideas. And so what does she do?
Well,
she goes out and she publicly puts it out.
Well, what's interesting is that almost all of his close advisors in his administration have publicly
That may
endorsed
be,
Hillary.
but HW didn't. He's an elderly former president, and this Kathleen Kennedy took advantage of him.
If you say so.
Which your party, your progressives, for them, principle is not as important as
John, you do not need to be lecturing me about principle in this election.
I lecture you on it, frankly.
No, you really don't. You've abandoned every principle you've ever espoused on this show.
No, I'm talking,
for 5 years,
Franklin.
With
I
this
am
campaign.
talking against
so don't
Hillary
lecture
Clinton.
me
This is
about
a binary
principle.
decision. I have two choices. One of them is
It's
going to
not
be
a
president of the
binary
United States. It
decision.
is a binary
No, it's not.
decision.
There's plenty of candidates on
Well,
the
good.
ballot.
All you
Pick one of
liberals
them
out there that
who
were Bernie
agrees with
Sanders
you.
people, what he's telling you to do
Okay,
is vote for
fine.
Jill Stein.
Fine.
So go ahead,
Fine.
vote for Jill
Do
Stein.
Do that. Don't tell me it's a binary choice. Don't tell me it's a matter of principle.
Is
It's
one of
got
these
nothing
two
to do
people-
with
so
it.
Can I ask you something,
The
Franklin?
only
Franklin.
principle that's involved for here is your unbroken string of voting for Republicans.
Are you going to vote for Hillary out of principle?
I'm going to vote for Hillary because she's closer to my views about what I think ought to happen in the next president, and also because I think
Gary
she's
Johnson's not
because
closer to you?
No, I don't think somebody
Gary
who doesn't
Johnson is
know
honest.
where Aleppo is close to my views.
Well, at least he wouldn't strip it out of a memo that he put it in, probably.
You think Obama's done a good job?
I do.
What's he
Largely.
done? What's he done that's so good?
Where do you want to start?
Give me one.
Where you want to do domestic or international?
I don't care.
Okay. Well, domestically, I think that he has totally revamped the American energy sector.
How do you figure that?
This year,
The coal
almost
industry's out of business.
almost a quarter of the energy produced in America was by non-carbon based sources, solar and wind this year. That's a
At
dramatic
taxpayer
change.
supported
That's a dramatic
expense.
change,
At
which will pay
taxpayer
long
supported
benefits
expense.
for us in the
Given
future.
out to his buddies who donated to his campaign.
Okay, John.
Well, it's support. It doesn't pay for itself, Franklin. You can brag about it all you want, but it
Oh,
doesn't
no,
pay for
the
itself.
cost is coming down
It
dramatically.
doesn't pay for itself. Without government subsidies, in other words, taxpayer dollars, it would be flopping. And the bad part is, it's his own buddies that he gave all this money to.
It's been a huge success.
Crony capitalism
huge
is the name of it.
success for the country.
We got a call. Let's take a call. Caller, go ahead. You're live.
I've got a question for Franklin.
All right.
Where did the Clintons come out of the White House and they made a statement that they were totally broke?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have any money to get going in the country, and now they're worth $110 million.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to me where this $110 million came from?
Sure, I can explain where it came from. I don't like it, but I can tell you where it came from. It came from giving speeches.
Why would a speech by any of them be worth $250,000 to a bank, a big Wall Street bank?
I don't think anybody's speeches are worth that much money.
But they're still raking it in. Bill Clinton's still on that circuit.
Sure.
And by the way, Franklin,
sure.
Were they so poor that they had to steal furniture from the White House like they did?
I don't know anything about
They
this
took
one.
furniture out of the White House and sent it to their home. Furniture that the American taxpayer owns.
I don't know anything about
Well,
that.
look it up. They stole couches and chairs and furniture from the White House.
What I can tell you is
after
that
vandalizing all
we
the
have a
computers.
political system that's dripping in cash. Do I like that? No.
Has Donald
Do
Trump
I-
been involved in that on the government end of that?
Hey,
No, he's been involved in on the other side where he's giving
Wait a minute.
donations.
Wait a minute. We have a caller. Caller, did you get your question answered?
Well, I got that part of it answered, but and another question I would, I mean, it's not another question, but it's a follow-up to that.
All right.
I would like to, and for the public to know, how much, and dollar-wise, has Obama cut out of the Veterans Administration pensions, and how much he has taken out of the military since he's been in office just the last term.
There haven't been any cuts to those things. You could argue that they both should have been increased more, but they haven't been cut.
Actually, the sequester, which was the White House's idea, has cut.
No, the sequester just limited what the increases would be.
Which is a cut with inflation.
Well, okay, John.
I mean, if you don't have money to pay your bills.
There have been no actual cuts. There haven't been any cuts to veterans' pensions. In fact, military pay actually went up during the Obama administration.
Go ahead.
Now,
Colin.
you can argue that they haven't done a good job administering the Veterans Administration, and I'll give you credit for that.
Well, they have if you're an art dealer, since they bought $170 million worth of art.
Go ahead, caller. Speak up.
This administration has cut. I am a Vietnam vet, and this administration, or somebody in Washington, D.C., has cut my pension by $100 a month. Now, somebody did it. I don't know whether Obama did it or whether his cabinet did it or who did it, but I'm $100 a month less now than I was receiving before. And when they sent the letter to me stating to me that they were going to cut the veterans' pensions, they cut mine.
Well, listen, make sure you don't criticize with your real name or the IRS will come investigate you as an enemy of the Obama administration.
Well, I really don't care because I've been under investigation ever since I went in the military in 1962 and got out in 1966.
Gee, that would have been under all Democrats.
Yeah, and I mean, what the heck, I'm not, John. That's just old hat. The government, doing that to the veterans, and I'm just sick of this whole mess.
Hey, let me ask you something as a veteran.
Yeah.
I've said this for years. Do you think we need veterans hospitals, or do you think we all just let our veterans go to the hospitals they need to go to?
Absolutely. There needs to be a controlling factor of who goes where, but there ought to be a choice made, or there ought to be a choice that could be made by the veterans if they have a specific disease or a specific need, and they can't get the help from the Veterans Administration, that they can go to private practice.
Well, do you think we ought to just do away with the veterans hospitals, give you a veterans card, and let you be eligible to go to any hospital?
Absolutely.
Look, liberal progressive Democrats can't allow individual Americans to have choice. That's against central planning, and they believe in central planning.
Yeah, I know, and but the only thing I can say is, in Franklin, I've my whole family's been Democrat for all my life.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
I can honestly tell you, Franklin, that I will never, and my family will never, vote Democrat again. Bye.
Okay.
That was a mic drop. That was a mic drop.
Okay. All right, caller. Thank you for calling.
By the way, I got one thing to kind of finish out with. Mexico is now going to build a border wall. They've agreed on the border wall.
They're going to pay for it?
They're going to pay for it. They've actually announced that. Oh, wait a minute. It's on the southern border with El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. So Mexicans are now calling for a border wall to protect their southern border, just like Trump is calling for a border wall to protect our southern border.
I'm sure they'll get Nicaragua and Honduras to pay for it, right?
Well, the point is, Franklin, they need a border wall to protect the sovereignty of their country.
Do you think the race is tightening up right now?
Sure.
Sure.
Do you think?
You would be surprised if it wasn't.
Do you think Trump's got a chance to win?
I think the Democrats are ordering a lot of brown pants.
I think he's got a chance to win, but I think the demographics all still favor Hillary Clinton.
You think the electoral votes are the ones that favor her?
Yeah, I do.
Actually, that's shifting. There was Politico had a piece just this week that he had altered the map.
Sure, but she was so vastly far ahead 30 days ago.
And by the way, the fact that people like Franklin brag about the energy sector, that tells the coal miners in Pennsylvania and in Virginia and in West Virginia and in Kentucky and in Ohio, it tells them all they need to know and who they should vote for.
It's going to be an interesting election. I think we're 48 days away from the election today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Hillary's taking another day off.
Absentee balloting has already started in some states.
Did anybody think she looked kind of sickly when she was on the plane responding on the bombings?
I think
and then she took yesterday off. Just gone all day yesterday off the campaign trail. Gee, I hope the presidency is not harder than the campaigning is. Seems to me it'd be even harder. If she can't campaign, how in the world is she going to
start to sound like Trump?
How's she going to actually?
He is. It's really interesting to watch the transformation take place.
It's not a transformation.
It is.
It is what it is. I'm talking about Hillary. If you'll listen to everything I've said, I've talked about Hillary.
Okay.
Well, I just think Hillary's going to have to get something worked out with the white folks over the way they're discriminating.
Look, we shouldn't be talking. We're all Americans. That's what's wrong. We have spent 8 years dividing Americans along all kinds of racial and social lines, and we shouldn't be doing it. But that's what the Democrat Party has built their brand on the last 25 years.
Well, I'm happy to see that Trump is really setting records with small donors right now.
He is.
He is.
Under $200 record for donations to the Republican Party. But Hillary's setting records with the Hollywood set and with the big bank Wall Street set. That's the only thing she's got on the books for today campaigning is a big fundraiser.
One last thing before we leave. North Korea setting off their bombs and doing all their little fun. They've got some problems over there now. They've got massive flood damage going on, and they're wanting some aid. Nobody's coming to their aid.
Go figure.
Wonder why. Hey, folks, that's all for this week. See you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey.